Before the first Super Bowl ring, before the 6 championships, before anyone called him the greatest of all time, Tom Brady was just a kid from California who nobody wanted. And I mean nobody. The story most people know starts with the trophies and the titles, but the real story, the one that actually explains everything, starts years earlier in a place far from the spotlight with a boy who kept hearing the same word over and over again. Not yet. Not good enough. Not him. If you think success in the NFL is about talent, this story is going to completely change the way you think about greatness. Tom Brady was born on August 3, 1977, in San Mateo, California. He grew up in a sports-obsessed household in Sarah High School, the same school that produced Lynn Swann and Barry Bonds. From the outside, it looked like a perfect setup for a future athlete. But Brady's path was anything but smooth. He was a multi-sport athlete in high school, playing both baseball and football, and he was genuinely good at both. The Montreal Expos actually selected him in the 18th round of the 1995 MLB draft as a catcher, according to Baseball Reference's historical draft records. He had a real future in professional baseball if he wanted it. But Brady chose football, and that decision led him directly into one of the most overlooked stretches of struggle in NFL history. When Brady enrolled at the University of Michigan, he arrived with expectations. He had been recruited as a quarterback with potential, but what happened next was something that would have broken most people. Michigan already had a starter, and his name was Brian Griese. Brady had to wait. He sat and watched. He worked and trained and competed, and still he waited. According to reporting by ESPN and the book The TB12 Method, Brady was so frustrated during his early Michigan years that he actually hired a sports psychologist named Greg Harden to help him manage the mental pressure of being overlooked. Think about that. He was not yet a starter, not yet proven, and already under enough psychological strain that he sought professional help just to stay mentally in the game. That is not a story about a golden boy. That is a story about a fighter. Even after Griese moved on, Brady's starting job was never truly safe. Head coach Lloyd Carr kept rotating quarterbacks, including Drew Henson, a highly touted recruit who many people inside and outside the program believed should be starting over Brady. According to the Detroit Free Press archives and multiple Michigan football histories, there were games where Brady would start only to be pulled in favor of Henson mid-game. Brady would then come back in. It was a psychological roller coaster that most elite players at that level simply would not have tolerated. He could have transferred. He could have quit. Instead, he competed harder. In his final 2 seasons at Michigan, Brady proved himself beyond any reasonable doubt. He led the Wolverines to a 20-5 record as a starter, including a dramatic 35-30 for overtime victory over Alabama in the Orange Bowl on January 1, 2000, as documented by the University of Michigan's official athletics records. He was named the team's most valuable player. By any measure, he had earned the right to enter the NFL draft with confidence, but the NFL did not see it that way. The 2000 NFL Draft is now one of the most studied events in sports history, not because of who was taken first, but because of what happened to Brady. He sat and waited through round 1. He sat through round 2, round 3, round 4. 5 other quarterbacks were taken before him. Round 5 passed. Round 6 came and went. Finally, in the 6th round, with the 199th overall pick, the New England Patriots selected Tom Brady. 6 quarterbacks taken ahead of him included Chad Pennington, Giovanni Carmazzi, Chris Redman, T. Martin, Mark Bulger, and Spurgeon Wynn, as confirmed by Pro Football Reference's draft database. Of those 6, only Bulger had any meaningful NFL career. The rest faded from the league within a few years. The greatest quarterback in NFL history was considered less worthy than all of them. What were the scouts saying? NFL draft evaluations from that period, later reported by Sports Illustrated and NFL Network's documentary coverage, described Brady with a brutal combination of words: slim, lacking mobility, poor build, weak arm. These were the official assessments. He was seen as a clipboard holder, a practice squad body, maybe a backup if things went perfectly. The Patriots took him as a developmental project with no real expectation that he would ever see meaningful playing time. Brady arrived in New England behind Drew Bledsoe, who at that point was one of the highest paid players in the entire NFL. Bledsoe had just signed a $103 million contract with the Patriots, making him one of the highest paid players in the league at the time, as reported by the Boston Globe. That level of financial commitment to a quarterback sent a clear organizational message. Brady was invisible in that context. He was fourth on the depth chart when he arrived. Fourth, he had no guarantee of making the active roster at all. Now here's where the story turns, but not because of luck alone. Before the famous moment in September 2001 when Bledsoe was injured against the New York Jets and Brady stepped in, there was an entire offseason of work that most people overlook. Brady spent that period not sulking about his draft position or demanding a trade or complaining to the media. He studied film obsessively. He built relationships with receivers. He mastered the Patriots' offense under coordinator Charlie Weis with a level of preparation that belied his backup status. When the moment came, he was not lucky. He was ready. But even then, even after Brady stepped in and started winning, there was genuine debate inside and outside the organization about whether Bledsoe should return to the starting lineup once healthy. The discussion was real. Coach Bill Belichick ultimately made the decision to stay with Brady, a call that the Boston Globe and numerous Patriot insiders have described as one of the most consequential coaching decisions in NFL history. Brady had earned it, but earning it and receiving it are different things, and the fact that this was even a debate shows how little institutional trust existed in him at that point. The first Super Bowl victory in February 2002 against the heavily favored St. Louis Rams changed the public narrative overnight. Brady was suddenly a star, but the struggle that preceded that moment did not disappear just because the result was glorious. It shaped everything about how he competed. According to interviews Brady gave to the NFL Network and Sports Illustrated across multiple years, he credited his time being overlooked at Michigan and going undrafted in meaningful rounds as the fuel that kept him obsessively committed to preparation throughout his career. The chip never left his shoulder. He described himself in one 2017 interview as someone who never felt secure, never felt like the job was his permanently, because for so many years it genuinely was not. And this matters for every single person watching right now, because the lesson here is not about natural talent. Brady was not the most talented player in his high school, not the undisputed starter at Michigan, not a prized prospect at the NFL level. He was repeatedly evaluated and found wanting by people who were paid to assess football talent professionally. Every single one of those evaluations was wrong. What they could not measure was the part of him that refused to accept their conclusions. Subscribe to the Inventor Realm right now if you want more stories like this, because this channel exists specifically to find the parts of greatness that the highlight reels leave out. Every week, we go deeper into the untold stories behind the athletes, inventors, and competitors who changed the world. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what we uncover next. If you are someone who has been told you are not quite good enough, not the first choice, not the obvious answer, the story of Tom Brady before the rings is not just an interesting sports history. It is evidence that the people doing the evaluating are not always right. The gap between where you start and where you end up is filled not with talent, but with work, with refusal, with the stubborn decision to keep competing when the easier thing would be to accept the label and step aside. Brady went on to win 7 Super Bowl championships, the most by any player in NFL history, as confirmed by the NFL's official records. He played until he was 45 years old, retiring in February 2023 after a career that statistically eclipsed every quarterback who came before him. He threw for 89,214 passing yards and 649 touchdowns across his regular season career, both all-time NFL records per Pro Football Reference. He did all of that as the 199th pick. The player nobody really wanted, who became the player nobody could stop. The next time someone tells you the timing is wrong, the draft position is too low, the opportunity has already passed. Remember that the greatest to ever play was 4th on the depth chart once. And he did not wait for the world to change its mind about him. He changed the world's mind himself.